YouTube channel. Today's news and the headline: Aussie renters are threatening to strike. That's right, folks. The rental crisis in Australia has officially hit boiling point, and some fed up Aussies are considering striking over the issue. An anonymous Facebook user put up a poll in a popular rental Facebook group, Don't Rent Me, where Aussies share their rental issues, concerns, and wins. Would you participate in a mass mortgage and rent strikes? The post read. The government isn't going to help us in this housing crisis, and we need to rise. We need to get a bit French, or this will continue to get worse, the poster reason. It is no secret that millions of Aussies are struggling, but it is enough to prompt them to protest. Inflation is at 7%. RBA rates have increased 12 times to 4.10%, and groceries have never been so expensive. In May 2023, a high record 50% of Australian tenants said they struggled to pay their rent, up from 36% in May 2020, according to Finder's Consumer Sentiment Tracker. New data also shows rental prices in some suburbs have increased by almost 50% in the past year, pushing a growing number of tenants to breaking point, and not all of them are prepared to take it lying down. Okay, so this is the poll which a anonymous user have posted. Okay, so it looks like yes, mortgage strike and rent strike. Okay, this is gaining up support. No, I could not. Too scared. 18%. Oh, this one's interesting. I want mass protests and riots. Okay, so this is just basically a poll. So the protest poll has more than 9 options for people in the group to select from, including yes, mortgage and rent strike. No, I couldn't. I'm too scared. I want mass protests and riots. I don't care. I seriously don't understand why we are not doing this stuff already. If we email MPs, maybe the government would help us. My hope is to vote out major parties in the future. If we wait long enough, it might get better. Find some land, live off the grid until the government ensures affordable living and wages. Have protests on the same day in all major cities. Eat the rich. Less than 24 hours, the post has more than 1,000 individual votes, and results suggest that Aussies are really fed up. According to the result, 37% declared they would opt into a mortgage and rent strike. Some 17% admitted they are too scared to strike, and 16% shared they wanted to mass strikes and even riots. None of the other options generate much interest, with the rest getting less than 5% of the votes. Okay, would you participate in a rental strike? I might consider. All right. So could a rental strike really work in Australia? Chief economist at PRD Real Estate, Dr. Dashiwari Madasmo, said it won't be as effective for 2 key reasons. Our vacancy rate is low, and the rental market supply is very tight. A number of demand far outweighs supply, and there are always more applicants than what the property manager can manage. Strikers could also face serious consequences for a renter not to pay their rent, and for them to avoid further legal complication notices. The landlord must be at fault. Increasing the rent is not categorized as being at fault. Okay, if a rental strike did go ahead, Dr. Madid Masmo flagged that the short-term result could be grim for vulnerable renters. There are some immediate fallouts, such as eviction proceeding against participating tenants and potential difficulties in securing alternative housing in a low vacancy rate market. Participating tenants may face legal consequences, strained relationship with landlords, and potential long-term implication for future rental opportunities. However, the long-term impacts of a strike, if there were enough people involved, could be helpful to renters. The impact of a rental strike could extend to policy decisions or discussions. But immediate relief is not guaranteed, and outcomes may take time to materialize, Dr. Mardasimo said. The poll was also quite divisive in the Facebook group. One camp firmly felt striking was ultimately a waste of time and would only leave them in a worse position. God, no. I like my children having a home. Thank you very much, some wrote. What would this achieve besides mass credit defaults? One asked. This would be a better idea if there weren't dozens of people willing to move to a vacant home, another fumed. And anonymous some Aussie didn't ignore these concerns and wrote back in a link to the naysayers. So we don't pay rent, homeowners don't pay banks. Not only would it make a global news, but it would crash the entire housing system, like holding a knife to their throat. They wrote. Okay, that sounds quite disturbing. This country is running on the housing market. The banks are backed by home loans. The banks are currently making record profits, would be under threat, and the government would have to act to avoid an entire system collapse. So, also, rent strikes have been throughout history and worked. They argued, if you want to solve this housing crisis, this is what it's going to take at this point. Okay, all right. Some Aussies might strike. There is a history of strike action working. In Glasgow in 1915, there were rental strikes because people were dealing with this kind of financial storm as Australians are currently battling. Rents had increased, there was a rise of food, price of food, and people were struggling. And about 15,000 tenants were on strike in Glasgow, and the government successfully introduced the Rental Restriction Act that froze rent. There were also people commenting that they were willing to put the anonymous person plan into action. I'll turn up to a protest event, just let me know. I'll make an Eat the Rich t-shirt, someone wrote. Why don't we just pitch a tent and have a good old-fashioned sit-in outside Parliament House? Another suggested protest for sure, but I'm not breaking laws or losing a home to create new laws, someone reasoned. Anyway, folks, what do you reckon? Do you reckon people would definitely go for a rent and mortgage strikes? Let your thoughts know in the comments section. Anyway, have a good day.